better roll them dice. You never know if it could change your life. Take a chance, you're neither wrong or right. You never know if you don't roll them dice.
Hello, Matt.
Hello, darling.
Welcome to the Seventh Day of Wizardsmas, on which we celebrate the vampire wizard and all of his various forms. This is like the Krampus celebration of Christmas time. Wizardsmas includes a Vampire Day. This is Vampire Day.
Yes, Vampire Day, and today we're talking about everyone's favorite pale elf, Astarion.
Astarion from Baldur's Gate 3, the video game.
So this is Astarion's Book of Hungers, is what we're talking about.
That's
which
right.
is a digital exclusive on D&D Beyond.
It is themed and oriented around Astarion Ansunin. I didn't know he had a last name, to be honest, but it is in the book as that. And his environs and adventures that are themed or around him, including some vampiric options for players. And yeah, I previously said that I thought this was a good idea, because why not lean into the popularity of Baldur's Gate? Why not include some stuff for players who want to be vampires or vampire adjacent? And I gotta say, generally, I had low expectations, and yet this did not quite meet them.
$15. Is this worth $15? And
No.
I think my
it is
answer
not.
is absolutely no. So I think this is the result of, I feel like 2 years ago, we saw like a Hasbro WotC investor call that's like, we've under monetized D&D Beyond. We need to put out more stuff. And I think one thing they added was let's add third-party stuff to D&D Beyond. And that's good, because I love people, especially people who are not wizards, making money in the TTRPG
Yes,
space.
that's
So
right.
like,
Get people paid.
is this worth $15? No. Is this, what is it, Rob? 3 years too late? If they had come out with this in the like heyday of the first year after Baldur's Gate 3 came out, and then also came out with like Karlach's Book of the Berserker and Gale's Whimsical Wizardry, sure, like I feel like these would have sold like hotcakes. But instead, we've only got one. It's 3 years too late. It's $15. We get feats, character options for 3 backgrounds, the Dampier, some epic boons, some monsters for the DM, and 2 example adventures that are kind of loose outlines. That's it.
I expected this to be a lazy cash-in. I wasn't expecting it to be this lazy. Look, I know that it takes time to do things, and there's playtesting and editing, but like, not to like say anything about positive about our abilities, but Matt, you and I could have probably written this supplement in 2 days. Like, there's just like not a lot in here, and it isn't like doing anything particularly interesting. And as like a $5 bonus,
at $5, yes,
this would be worth $5, and maybe it'll go on sale someday. But even at $5, unless you are a super huge Astarion fan or really want to play around vampires in your 5e campaign, there's not much to recommend this. But let's briefly talk about what's actually in here, so that you know.
Right. Speaking of laziness, sure, there's some backgrounds. I considering that backgrounds, I think anyone can write one at any time. I don't hardly consider them actual design, right? It's just you pick 3 ability scores, you pick a feat, you pick some skill proficiencies. Yeah, no. So I'm going to skip those. The Dampier is almost exactly the same as the Dampier in Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft. The only changes is, instead of not having to breathe, you now have resistance to necrotic damage, and you no longer have the option to get either a skill or like a trait from what you were before you were turned into a quasi vampire.
Dampier remains like pretty strong. Their vampiric bite is a pretty powerful ability, especially if you have optimized for unarmed strike in any way. But it's largely the same as it was before. It's just a very like minor update. There's some feats. Some of them are neat. there are some cool feats that allow for some kind of like interesting types of play, but they're not many, and most of them are just flavor, and some of them are pretty very specific and kind of useless, but a good combination of like vampire or vampire hunter type things. One thing that is a issue for me, Astarion was not my favorite Baldur's Gate 3 companion, but I get the appeal.
Yeah.
It's very hard. His character was like really like, for me, riding the line of being like kind of cartoonishly over the top, and I could never tell if like that was deliberate. But if you're gonna have like a beautiful elf twink swanning around and calling everyone darling, your writing has to be really good. Like it has to be really good, or else it's gonna seem fucking stupid as hell. And you have to have a good like it worked because there was like a good voice actor doing it, and it was well written. And they have all these like little bits from Astarion in here, and they are not well written, and it really like yanks me out of it every time. So not a huge deal, but like if you are an Astarion fan, this is probably going to partially ruin it for you.
Yeah, I think if these little Astarion quotes were voiced by the Astarion voice actor, it would go down a little bit better. And then we get some stat blocks for like some vampire attaché creatures, like vampire dogs and fiends, and a vampire that's done a pact. They're fine stat blocks. They would be useful if you were running a full vampire campaign. It's pretty short. There's the vampire stat blocks, and there's like 4 of them. And then now we're on to Adventures with Astarion. Rob, and I think this is the like fundamental critique I have. Do you want to adventure with Astarion, or do you want to help your players tell stories like someone in the party or one of their NPCs is like an Astarion like character? Like what? I mean, what's the goal here?
Yeah, I had the same issue. I'm like, I don't want to be Astarion's buddy. That's embarrassing. That's like, that's like you're role playing being a fanboy of a video game character. Like these adventures are all like Astarion has a problem, and also you're there. And
you can go play Baldur's Gate 3 if you want to be Astarion's buddy, and you can talk to him, right? And he's voiced and animated and stuff like that.
And you're equals, and you're working towards a goal. You're not just like, because Astarion is at the end of Baldur's Gate 3, a 12th level rogue or something, and that means he can solve most of these problems himself. So they're all kind of like, here's the thing that happens, and then here's some really like contrived reasons why you need to be there, and like what you might do. And
so Rob, role-playing games are anti-canon. Who cares about the video game or whatever or something? But I want to point out a couple of things, which is we just reviewed 2 Forgotten Realms supplements. Those clearly state the year is 1501 Dale Reckoning, or 1502 or something.
Correct.
It also states in those books that the events of Baldur's Gate 3 took place 7 or 8 years before, in 1492 Dale Reckoning. If you're using those books plus this one, then these adventures take place back in time, because this is before the events of Baldur's Gate 3, because we don't know what happens to Astarion because it's different in everyone's campaign. So Astarion is still a servant of the evil vampire lord Cazador. For me, like it's completely pointless, because you can't continue the adventure with Astarion, because this is set back in time before Astarion is free from his master. So like, who even cares, right? This is a prequel that we didn't need.
You're right. Actually, this is a good point, because it does in the beginning point out the timeline, the events of Baldur's Gate 3, 1501, this is the current year. But I was going to say that like maybe this is suggesting a canonical ending to Baldur's Gate 3 where Cazador Zaz is still around, but Astarion is still his spawn. But like, I don't know, that doesn't make any sense. So like, yeah, I think you're right. These are all background adventures or something that happened in the past. So like, why would this matter? They're also not very good adventures. Like they're just not very interesting. Like I can imagine something being written where Astarion is somehow involved and the players get to do something interesting. Like there are classic adventures where Drizzt or Elminster or some other major figure are sort of there, and they don't feel like you're just along for the ride. But not only is that kind of hard to do, but this book doesn't really even seem to try.
So let me give our listeners an impression of what we've going on. We've got a map of a cool tavern. I like the map of the tavern. This is fine.
This is the one good thing. There's a cool tavern, Rat's Run, which
cool
is like
tavern.
it's a cool tavern, and you get a big map. That's something.
This is Astarion's hunting ground, and again, given what information we have, and from the video game, this is when Astarion is an evil vampire murdering people. So with that set aside, both adventures are essentially the same plot. One of Astarion's siblings has it out for them with the inter-family scheming that is common among vampire spawns, and has set up some kind of way to kill Astarion. Astarion brings you along so that the ambush is reversed and you can defeat it. That's, I think, fairly uninteresting, and we don't need the same type of adventure repeated twice. So in my opinion, these suck ass.
They're bad. There's not really anything salvageable here. If you somehow were gifted this or really wanted to buy it for some reason, at the very least, the tavern is a cool tavern. It's got a nice big map and a bunch of details. You could definitely repurpose that, but these adventures are useless. They're also the same kind of like adventure framework that we've been seeing a lot of, which is fine if they're well written and interesting, but they're not. So like you can't even, there's not really even anything to borrow or steal of significance from Astarion's Book of Hungers.
Here's what I think I would have liked. D&D 5th edition frequently does books in which one character is your guide to this aspect of player options or GM advice and adventures. I think it's fine to, put Astarion on it, to brand it, to sell things. And also he's a great example of a vampire-ish player character idea.
Far be it from me to tell the capitalists how to do their job, but like this is a great idea. Put Astarion on the cover. Doesn't matter if it's like not super about him, but like, yeah, you're using him to sell books. Who cares? But like, put something good in the book,
I think then what I would like is like Astarion being like, oh, so you've been turned into a vampire, but somehow have free will like me. How do you navigate this? Here's some, and speaking now to the dungeon masters, here's how to run a campaign for characters dealing with the fallout of that. And let's do an adventure where the player character or characters who are Dampiers, using that option before, here's an adventure focused on those characters and the problems that have that they're dealing with because they're, like a quasi vampire spawn. And they have to go do this and this to get free, and you bring the whole party along. That would be so good, right? Imagine a 2-level adventure that focuses on the characters that are Dampiers, and here's their big bad, and here's how they deal with it, and here's the twist, and here's the tough decision they make, and here's the layout of the vampire's castle. That would be great, but we don't have that.
I don't know why I would have expected this, but I guess I thought we were going to get character options for being at least like a vampire spawn, if not a full vampire. Like, I know you can't balance that, but the book could have said, these are not balanced. Here's the rules though, if you want to have vampire characters or
the Dampire character, and say you're a vampire spawn that is now has free will.
But I also I guess I was also maybe expecting like, I don't know, like a light version of how to do Vampire the Masquerade in 5e. I was like, I was expecting like a vampire themed adventure, like you were just describing. Like, this is what it is to be a Dampier or a vampire spawn or a vampire with free will, and how are you going to negotiate that? Because like the thing that I thought, based on just like the cover, is like players want to be vampires. This is correct, by the way. Players want to be vampires.
Yes.
Players love being vampires. And I was like, well, here's going to be some, it's not my thing. And I don't like running vampire campaigns. That's not like a particularly like interesting dynamic to me, but there's a reason like why Vampire the Masquerade is popular. And I was expecting to get something around that, but instead you're at best a vampire's sidekick or plaything. And I'm like, that's boring and kind of lame. Like what is, this is, like I said, I had low expectations, but it didn't even meet that.
I think there could have been 2 like quick adventures outlines and pieces of advice, or maybe even 3, right? One is like your how to guide a player character from breaking free of a vampire, 2 a kind of vampire hunting adventure or quest, and then 3 so your player characters, either as dhampirs or just vampire playthings or people who have run into vampires, are now embroiled in vampire politics. Here's an adventure dealing with 2 rival vampires in a city where the players have to do something and choose a side or betray them both or something like that. That would be perfect. That would be well worth my $15. Sadly, our 2 adventures are, here's a tavern, Astarion's gonna be ambushed, the players can help him out.
Yeah.
Please ignore that Astarion is completely evil right now and some murderous vampire.
Yeah.
We've lost the thing that makes him interesting, which is that he's not free right now and able to either continue being a son of a bitch or maybe be somewhat nicer.
That is the central interesting thing about his character. That's what all like good like vampire stories are around this. Like, how does a person with free will and, I don't know, some ethical foundation navigate being a creature that feeds on, you know, humanoid beings? Like, is it fresh or new, interesting at this point? No, but like it's still a compelling thing to role play, and you're not getting that with this book, which is wild because based on what it's called, Astarion's Book of Hungers, you'd think that's what it would be about.
Sorry to be so negative on this one. I mean, I think we overall liked the last 3 Wizards things.
It's been a pretty good run.
Degrees.
Yeah, I haven't had
the
to.
The 7th day was not great.
Probably skip this one unless. I gotta say, even if you are a huge Astarion fan, I would skip this one even more because I think you're going to be disappointed.
Yeah,
just buy an old version of Vampire the Masquerade and, I don't know, hack the rules yourself. This is not going to do anything for anybody.
Sorry, everyone. Well, that's Astarion's Book of Hungers, 3 years and a major rework, too late and too wrong.
Well, thanks for listening, everybody. If you have other thoughts or questions, as always, hit us up at dmofnone@gmail.com. Go to our Patreon at patreon.com/dungeonmasterofnone. If you'd like more episodes, check us out on Blue Sky or the Discord. And whatever you do, keep rolling them dice.